Good morning, America, or at least a decent chunk of Summit County. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott, and this is the A to Z Podcast. A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. Shout outs, as always, to our sponsors, Honeymoon Grill, Cleveland Scene, and American Fireworks for helping to make this thing happen. Shout out to you guys for helping this thing grow, pushing us along at the times like these when we have different schedules. Andre, I believe you're in Cincinnati. Is that correct?
I am. So I am in Ohio, but it's Cincinnati, Ohio. But I guess if I go like 4 miles, it's Kentucky. So we're kind of in the same state.
Yeah, it's kind of the same state. I've always felt that. Cincinnati, whatever. I mean, it's cool. I like the place. It definitely, I think given the choice, most of them would secede from Ohio, but whatever. I do want to talk a little baseball today, and we got some other things, but I was thinking, Dre, as I drove here to get ready for this. Let's just go ahead and lead with our American Fireworks Glory Days, because we both have a bit of Glory Days to play. If you're not familiar with this segment, sometimes Andre goes on for 10, 15, 40 minutes about past athletic glory. I usually tell stories about getting hurt in a JV game. But we got two different ways I want to go about this. I want to start with a little bit of breaking news and a genuine hat tip to my partner. He has been elected to the St. Vincent St. Mary Athletics Hall of Fame. The official induction will be in January 2019. Going in a class that includes Drew Joyce, the basketball coach there, Brandon Weems, a name some of you guys will know, the Hurley brothers, who were outstanding wrestlers. I believe at least one of them played football at all. Everybody knows about St. Vincent St. Mary because of that LeBron guy. The truth is they have incredible athletic tradition. They had 2 basketball jerseys retired before he ever got there. And so, Dre, whether you got in for your good looks or for your podcast notoriety or for what you really did on the football field 25 years ago, not but congrats to you.
I appreciate that. It's pretty cool. To be honest, I never even knew if I would get in or not because of the tradition, to be completely honest. You know what I mean? Just because of all the names that you knew of beforehand, it was one of those, well, if I get in, cool. If I don't, I totally get it because I understand who's come before me. So it'll be a cool thing, one of those things that my kids aren't old enough to get it, but at some point in time, it'll be one more thing that'll make their lives a little bit more pressurized.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have had people tell me that in approximately 1993, Andre Knott was the best baseball player in Summit County. And I mean, if you can't believe things you hear in a bar 27 years later, then who can you believe in life, right? So.
Right. The people that say that, I can only imagine. It is really cool. Like you said, it's been 25 years, 23 years since I was athletically something that I would want to brag about. But it'll be cool. It'll be a cool moment to have. It'll be a cool moment to see some of the people and, like you said, some of the names that are going in. Knowing the Hurley boys and knowing them the way I knew them and the way they wrestled, it's just cool. Kevin Fertour was a guy that went to Fordham, played tight end when I was like a freshman. So it's just cool. It'll be a cool, things coming in full circle for me, and it officially means I'm washed. I'm old, and I got nothing left when they start putting you in.
Yeah, I'm at the stage of my washed where on Saturday I had the off day, played in a golf outing, drank too many claws, jammed my finger, sprayed my ankle. Ended up in Youngstown tailgating for Florida-Georgia line with a bunch of overserved white people, so I fit right in. But here we are. We live to tell about it. So here's my American Fireworks Glory Days story before we get into anything else, Dre. So we used to play this game in middle school gym class called pin dodgeball. And I don't know if you're familiar, but basically it was a dodgeball game that everybody played in gym class or on the playground or in the driveway, whatever. I think it was all 3 for us. And it's just dodgeball, but you had, well, at least the gym class version, you had bowling pins behind 3 on each team. And so that's kind of what, there was a strategy element because you weren't just trying to get guys out. You could also win by knocking out all 3 pins. So you kind of had to choose where your targets were. So I've had a great summer. We've talked at length about the summer of Zach. My friends right up the road who are around my age, who have kids and, elementary school, middle school age, they have an above-ground pool. It's nothing special, but it's nice. And when we're not on the boat, frankly, we spend a lot of time over there. And so a week or 2 weeks ago, there was, 4 or 5 adults and probably 7 or 8 kids. And like I said, they're at the age where they're super competitive and active as can be. And, like their Uncle Zach, they're prone to temper tantrums. They have short attention spans, but they want to interact. They want to compete. So I said, why don't we play pin dodgeball? And so I explained what it was like, and we kind of formed two teams of, 4 or 5 adults and 2 of the smaller kids against the rest of the kids. And we had probably 8 or 9 inflatable beach balls, so it was madness. Well, what we did is we took the empty White Claw cans that we were setting next to the pool throughout the day, and we set them up as the pins, right? So this went on, and we played 2 or 3 times until one 10-year-old threw a tantrum until I got tired, and it was great. So long story short, it was a glory days moment for me going back to middle school gym class, as I mentioned. So last night I get home from Browns, and my friends call me, and they say, hey, we had the family over today. We saved you some food. You want to come eat? I said, well, sure, yeah. That's what I love to do is eat. So I go over, and it's just 3 or 4 of us hanging out, and the kids are in the pool, minding their own business, the occasional scream or whatever, but they're we're 10 feet away, and everybody's being good. So they say, hey, we want to play pin dodgeball. Do you guys have some White Claws? Do you have some cans? And we're like, no, actually, we're not drinking, but I got kind of a chuckle out of that. So the mom gets up and goes out to the recycle bin, and she comes back with 6 water bottles. And she goes walking up, and she's setting them up, where you set the pins on the back of the pool. And her 10-year-old son looks at her and goes, Mom, we need actual claws. And I said, Uncle Zach has struck again.
Wow, you got 10-year-olds asking for the claw bottle. Look at you, and you literally have clawed the game. They don't even want the water bottles. I absolutely love it.
I'm just here to help. I'm going to change lives one way or the other when I'm on this earth, Trey.
Yeah, somehow you will. I have a feeling. I think the funniest part is that people know how ridiculous you are. They call you and offer you food when you get home. They know you can't take care of yourself.
I try to tell him, don't feed the stray cat. He'll come back.
No doubt at all. That is fabulous. This is not only has it been the summer of Zach. This is the month of Zach. We don't have to talk football just yet, but how's the transition been? Because you needed football season to start. How has it been having a regimented clock on you now?
It's been good.
You haven't had one all summer.
Here's the crazy part. They're down to like 2 or 3 more days of public camp. And that's just, how it goes with the way preseason is scheduled these days and the way that camps go. They'll still be in training camp mode. The players will still have curfew, and they'll still have longer practices. But, Joe, you have a Friday night preseason game followed by a Thursday night preseason game. You have a mandatory day off in there, plus your regular agenda. Like, you're really getting maybe 1.5 full practices. That's just kind of the nature of things. And so much logistically goes into hosting public camp at your facility because it's not, they bring in bleachers and they've done a great job, as I've mentioned before. It's just not great. So you get to the 15-day mark or so, and it just becomes time to shut it down. You can have some season ticket holders in. You still have to have the media in by rules, all of those things. But the camp with the hoopla and the fireworks and whatever, it kind of comes to an end, and it's kind of time to lock in on some real game preparations because, frankly, football coaches are too paranoid, and I'll argue anybody on that, and I'll always win. But open camp means open filming to everything, and so it's time to focus in on that so they can limit. We can still watch it by rule, but can't film it, and then they don't know. They have to quit worrying about who's coming in, who's seeing what, who's hearing what, all of those things. So that's been good, and I'm sure we'll talk about Hard Knocks later, but I had 3 quick observations I want to share on that before we transition into something else.
Okay, go for it.
One, we learned our lesson last week. I think the show is so good that it does us no good to do a Tuesday afternoon podcast if we can help it, because there's always going to be a talking point come a few hours later on Tuesday night.
For sure.
2, as you'll probably notice in this week's episode, although maybe not, in the post-game press conferences after the Giants game last Thursday, there was a radio guy from New York, who was blatantly trying to get on Hard Knocks with the questions he was asking. 1 or 2 was enough, but it's like, dude, you don't cover the Browns. He was a big booming radio voice guy. It was just a little much as he was trying. I successfully avoided the cameras in week 1. Nobody wants to see my fat ass on there. I'm 1 for 1 so far. But the third thing, Dre, and this is what really struck me, outside of the Hugh Haley exchange and the Jarvis Landry thing, there were 2, maybe 3 scenes where I saw on the show that remembered vividly, and I was right there, or remembered where I was. But I either didn't see the cameras, or I'm so used to them that you just don't even notice them. So that's what really struck me from being there damn near every minute of every day and seeing it translate to HBO.
I was going to say, that's going to be the scary thing, because obviously if you pay enough attention to practicing, you know when those moments happen. And it is kind of goofy. I guess it's kind of like when we do baseball games, though, too. It's like you see things, and I don't see what you guys see on TV. Like, I have a TV, with me or around me. But it is amazing how things can get captured and be seen in a completely different light than what you see them in, even though you guys are all in the same place. I guess we could bring it. Well, let me ask. We'll go back to Hard Knocks, because there's some things about it. Obviously, the conversation with Haley and Jackson, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Not just if you're a football coach. I think in any business, when leadership has to lead, and I'll never disagree with that. But there's ways to lead. And I think great leadership, whether it's in a business meeting, whether it's at the White Claw station, whether it's at Swenson's and you're the lead runner taking out the sandwiches, there's a way to lead without making other people. Obviously, people are underneath you, but you never have to make them feel underneath you. That's my opinion. Because the one thing I thought that happened in that part of the episode, I thought he cut the legs from underneath Kitchens, his running back coach. I thought he cut the legs from underneath Haley. I don't know if that was a TV production, or I don't know if that's just how Hugh does things. But I didn't walk away from that moment thinking, okay, so cause what I go back to is this. What if they have an idea for something to help the team in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months, if they all have their jobs, and they won't feel like it'll be good to go to them and suggest something, will they?
Yeah, I think you raise an interesting point there.
Back in August.
I think you raise an interesting point there with that. It certainly was a power play. The one thing I would say is they really are, and Hugh really is, big believers in the medical data that they've acquired over the years that backs up what they're doing. And they are tracking guys every day, every step, their usage on the field, how many miles they're running, how often they're going full speed. They've been really fortunate. There's only been 2 days it's really blazing at camp. But the soft tissue injuries limit guys. And as we talked about, it's so precious the actual camp days you get. You don't want to miss guys, and you certainly don't want to have anything linger. I agree it was a bad look for him to just say, I'm the boss, and this is how it's going to be. The flip side is, I think, you touched on this a little bit, I think that's the kind of discussion that goes on in meeting rooms and all sorts of companies, at all sorts of things.
No doubt.
It's healthy conflict. It's ideas meeting ideas. Just because Hugh rubbed them the wrong way and made the power play then doesn't necessarily mean he will going down the road. But I agree, it was like, oh boy, I'm glad we got to see this. This is what Hard Knocks is for. And it was just, it was a little bit awkward plus. Is that a safe way to say it?
Yeah, it was. And you don't get to see in many businesses. And this is the beauty and the non-beauty of Hard Knocks, I believe. I think Hard Knocks is great probably for people like you that cover the team. Hard Knocks very good for the fan who has the curiosities and wants to get to know the personalities of guys they probably wouldn't ever get this close to getting. But is it great for the organization? I still have questions about that. I've asked you that from the very beginning. I just think it opens up a can of worms for Hugh Jackson that he don't need no more cans of worms open, in my opinion. He doesn't, and there was some touching. It's just, to me, it makes you feel antsy when you see certain things. Even the Jarvis Landry thing. I know some people wanted to put him in the Hall of Fame with it. I guess because he didn't go after one person, I was okay with that one. But even in that one, it was still kind of, like, who are you going at? Because it's obvious you're saying something to someone. I do see that as a form of leadership from your best player, and you do need that. And like I said, I know fans will walk away and love it. But at the same time, every injury – look, I get what's going on. And I thought the Jarvis Landry did the same thing Coach Haley said. They're trying to change the image and the way that the Cleveland Browns go about their business, right?
Yeah.
That was the main thing I took from it, is we no longer can be who we've been. And we got to change that. And God bless them, they were 100% correct.
No, you're right. Well, there's two things that stand out. One, Todd Haley saying we can't live in our fears. I mean, we could come on here, Dre, and have a discussion every day for an hour. We can't live in our fear about things in life, not just in sports, right? About running a business, about running a podcast, about what you do. I mean, the Indians have had the playoffs clinched since May, right? So can Tito live in his fears and sit guys out? Is it smart to sit guys out? This is a discussion that goes on. But I think the flip side of that, what really became the strongest part of that scene, is Haley saying, we got guys that haven't done shit, not doing shit. Right, that's not verbatim, but that's about what he said. Whereas if he would have said, Coach, I agree with a couple guys, and I just don't agree with you, then it takes on a totally different tone, right? And so that's kind of where I point to it just being the kind of discussion that when you bring 20 adults into the room and everybody takes their turn on what's the feedback, what's the agenda, how can we tinker with the itinerary, anybody have any questions, it gets brought up in any environment, probably every morning, everywhere.
Right. For sure. And look, with the right leadership, I'm sure when Bill Belichick goes in front of his staff on Monday morning, I'm pretty sure probably most of his assistants don't have the nuts to stand up and say something like that. They probably just say, okay, and they go with the program because the program works, right? I would think that Mike Tomlin probably has, well, maybe not, because we just saw a guy that was with Mike Tomlin for a very long time. To me, I don't, like I said, I'm not here to jump. I'm really not here to jump on Hugh Jackson. He is his own man. He is leading it. And you know what? It's one of the rules of my career. I think it's one of the rules of your career. And I think I was told this earlier in my career. If you're gonna go out one way or the other, go out being yourself. Don't go back. Don't go back. Wishing I would have been more myself or doing that. So I get it. He's got to run the ship the way he's got to run it. But you do need to pay attention to some of the guys that have been around you because you've been an assistant, you've been a running back coach, you've been an offensive coordinator. But Haley's had a little bit more success in the last 5, 6, 7 years than you have. Not as a head coach maybe, but he's been around a winning program. And I think, to me, what he was saying when I heard him say that is, hey, in Pittsburgh, most of our guys were practicing, when they had to earn shit. We haven't earned shit. Why don't we find a way to earn some shit before we start giving guys off?
Right.
Soft tissue thing is true. And there isn't a lot of depth. So I thought it was very compelling television. And to be honest, and I was going to ask you, I was surprised it made it on television. I was surprised the Browns okayed that. But like I said, it made for great TV. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, you're not into making great TV right now. You try to make a great football team.
Yeah, well, here's the way I understand it. So obviously Hugh knows that there's a camera in his office. Dorsey knows there's a camera in his office. And I thought that first scene where he sits down with Haley, with the tight ends coach and the receivers coach, and says Gordon's not come here, I thought that was really forced because he was clearly hiding something, right?
Yeah.
But the way I understand it is each week when Hard Knocks is done, somebody with the Browns gets a view, but only for strategy things, only to make sure that an audible call or a snap cadence or one of those shots of a meeting room isn't showing a diagram of a play. That is the way I understand it. Now, how it goes person to person, or we can't let you say this, I can't say, but that's the way it's explained. And I think over the course of Hard Knocks, I think maybe with few exceptions, I kind of think that's the way it's been.
Yeah, no, like I said, makes for great television to say the least. We'll get back to Hard Knocks. I got to ask. I'm just going off the top of my head. I know you were clawed over the weekend, but just your reaction to what Isaiah Thomas did, and I hate even bringing it up, but it's obviously something that's a part of it.
Yeah,
I mean, look, the
guy was a disaster here. The chip on his shoulder, everybody rips. You just got to let it go, right? I've been in Twitter fights with douchebags who ripped on Akron, and I didn't gain anything from that,
Right.
Yeah, right. Isaiah Thomas is not as persona non grata. He's not why LeBron left. He's not why the Cavs were a mess for half the year. So let the midget go, and he can go to Six Flags Denver and not be able to ride anything. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I just don't get it for any athlete. Just to me, this is a personality thing. And I think sometimes social media ends up showing the good and bad in us.
Sure.
Especially if we allow it to. I just don't get you. I remember when I left WKNR way back. It's been a long time now. And I remember my friend, one of my good friends, my roommate at the time, because I was frustrated over some things or whatever else. And he was like, dude, they got you a start in the business. There's no reason to say anything bad about them. Because no matter how you feel, just keep it to yourself. They got you in the business. You started because they allowed you to start there. And I thought it was the greatest piece of advice about going forward in life, about any former employee. I always laugh when people make fun of the people they used to date. It's like, well, hey, dumbass, you agreed to be with that person. So when you put them down after they dropped you or you dropped them or whatever else, you're mocking your own decision making.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like in the long haul, and I get it. If somebody hurts your feelings, if somebody really goes off on a tangent and really does something wrong to you, I get that sometimes it makes the human being feel better to go back or attack that person. But usually, 9 times out of 10, when you're attacking the ex, it just shows more about who you are and what your issues are.
Exactly.
Than that place. It's like Cleveland existed and was fine before you, and it will be after you. But it really, thanks. You know what you just did? You helped Dan Gilbert sell about 15, 20 more tickets when they come to town in Denver to boo the shit out of your little ass.
Right.
But I will say this. This is the funniest thing I did see on Twitter. I do love how many people were calling him a midget and talking about his height when they're the same height or shorter than him. It's like, hey, he may be small for basketball standards, but most of you jackasses are the same height as him, so lay off of him.
That's funny. You're right, Jay. I mean, look, if you go through life and everybody that you ever have an argument with or you felt like done you wrong or looked at you funny or cut you off in traffic or didn't promote you when they should have, if you start eliminating all those people from your life, pretty soon you're going to be alone, right?
Right.
Things happen, and you take the experience, win or lose, and you move on, good or bad, right? You learn how to handle the next one better, and you just go from there.
That's where I would play music. I would play on to the next one. I'm on.
Yes.
You actually know that. You actually know that Jay-Z song.
I might have a little old rap song cooked up for later. Hint, hint. Let's do the baseball minute right now, though. Just the way the schedule's been last week, I've either been able to watch you a little bit or listen to most of the games. I know, they've been playing mostly chump competition, but I think the Indians have won, 8 of 11, something like that, 7 of 10.
Yeah.
And right now it's, by the time a lot of people listen to this, it will be the back half of August. So that is, A, the window if there is another move out there, and that's B, the time to start revving it up. So as someone who's there every day, where you think this team is, and I know a week from tonight they go to Boston for what should be some pretty good TV.
Well, yeah, that will be good TV, and I think they know. I think that's the last 4 games they'll have against a team over 500. It's kind of funny right now because you just hit on something. They are trying to turn it up for whatever, however you want to say it. They realize that you can't, Lindor gave the perfect quote a week ago where he basically said, we can't just sit around and just flip the switch. And we always hear that flip the switch comment made in sports, right? We talked about it with the Cavs for so many years. And now we're talking about it with the Indians where it's like they know that they can't just get October 4th or whatever and go, all right, time for us to play harder or time for us to really go out and show who we are. Frankie has gone out of his way to say, it's time for us just to get going now, and have a real thing going. And you've seen certain veterans play a little bit better over the last few days, even though Lindor had his worst game ever on Sunday. You don't worry about that right now. But they're trying. They had a couple walk-offs, which I think always builds camaraderie. Obviously, I get to look like a jackass and have Gatorade all over me. And I love when fans see me the next day and be like, hey, you plan on getting wet tonight? No, jackass. You plan on looking like an asshole at your job tonight? I mean, it's one of the I commit myself because I haven't yelled a bad word when that happens. And I don't care if you know it's coming or not. You want to scream a bad word when that happens. They are trying to turn it up a notch. You see, I think the pitchers are pitching better. I think this Red Series will be interesting. And I don't know if this is going to happen. But we watched last year this team get really hot, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think they're going to get closer than many think. They went from about the 2nd or 3rd seed this time last year to number 1 seed with that crazy win streak, right? You look at the standings right now, and you look at the American League, they're 66 and 51, 12 ahead of Minnesota. Obviously, that's not the discussion. But what's going on in the American League West is very interesting to me. I know no one in the clubhouse is talking about it out loud, but everybody's paying attention. Houston's 73 and 46. So they're about 5 games behind them in the loss column, and Houston, Oakland, and Seattle are about to kick the crap out of each other for the next month and a half.
Right.
If the Indians can get hot, and I don't know how much it matters, what if they jump up to the 2nd seed and have home field? So I think that's something that they're playing for. I think obviously you have the pitchers kind of fighting, to have the best numbers that they can have. It's funny because we're talking about Bauer and Kluber going, for the Cy Young. and you mess around and you look around, and Carrasco's got 14 wins. This has just been really cool to watch this pitching staff. I think they were bored for a while, and they're trying to find a way not to be bored. Does that make
that's
sense?
what's
Like,
really
now
interesting too, Dre, is the Indians would be in fourth place in the AL West right now. But you're exactly right that there's time to pass them all.
Right, as they battle each other. The Boston series next week will be very – here, I'll say this now, and I'll have to say it 15 times before then. Whatever happens in those 4 games in Boston won't mean anything come October, but I do think it'll be a good measuring stick for both sides. The Red Sox are playing unbelievable baseball, scoring, but they played Baltimore 19 times. As much I hate all these people that put down the AL Central. Yeah, the AL Central is down this year, no doubt. Toronto sucks. Baltimore sucks like all time sucks.
Yes.
It's a lot of bad teams in baseball right now. And when I hear people, kill, the Indians for their division, you think the Yankees and the Red Sox aren't taking advantage of the Baltimore Orioles, who are 35 and 84 as we go into today? Toronto's 53 and 64. Tampa Bay's right around 500. They have taken advantage of the bad teams in there, and they've taken advantage of the AL Central as well. It's been a fun season. It's going to be fun to see this ending. I'm even in the National League. I've been paying attention to what the Braves are doing, what Milwaukee's doing. It should be a cool playoff. I know we're still 2 months away. But the Indians, I think, are in the right place right now to kind of hopefully
every division in the National League is very much up for grabs, right? There's like 3 teams contending.
Right. Yes, Philadelphia and Atlanta are tied right now. The Cubs and Milwaukee are within 3 games. Hell, St. Louis is 5.5 back. Arizona, Dodgers, Colorado, all within a game and a half of each other. There's going to be a couple good teams that just don't make the playoffs this year, which is a good thing, which is great for baseball. There was something that happened in baseball that.
One last thing while you think about it. One more question, and then we can flip the question asking. Is this Indians roster done in your mind?
No, because I just don't think it is, because they still have the question mark in the outfield. They don't know exactly what's going to happen with Leonis and Martin. It's a tough situation right now. That really no one. When the manager comes out and says, "Hey, if you're into praying and things of those things, do it for a person." It's a tough situation. Yeah, and that's all that can be said right now. It's just a tough situation, and they don't know if he'll be back this year. They just want his health to be as best as it possibly can. So, if they can find the right outfielder and get him on the roster before August 31st, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Is what I would say.
Okay, want to talk about the preseason world champions?
Hell yeah, man. They can't lose in August, man.
All right,
I thought it was the month of Zach. It's the month of the Browns.
It's the month of the Browns. And before Zach talks about the Browns, let's have a little music. All right, 21 questions, Dre. You're up. Let's go.
21 questions. I love it. I love it. All right. What was most impressive to you about Game 1 in East Rutherford, New Jersey?
Second drive, no huddle. Tyroded like a pro. Couple easy completions. Saw he had a matchup he liked. The no huddle gave energy. It caught the Giants a little off guard. Perfect ball to Njoku. Get him out. 2 drives got the work, right? 5 of 5. Only got hit once. Perfect QB rating. Get on the touchdown, get everybody out, and get out. Coach told me a long time ago in the preseason, I mean, you can have your fears confirmed, you can have that, but the worst thing, and you see it with Darius Geis in Washington, the worst thing is to lose someone. So Coach told me, you get the work and you get back to work. And so from that regard, that was by far and away the most important thing, is to show some life and get back on the plane.
How concerned should fans be, and they weren't paying attention if they're not, that they could get no push in the running game? Now, I know the second line played a lot. I know they're still trying to figure it out, but you're seeing most teams be able, with their first unit, to have a running play that they can go to. Like the Cardinals, because David Johnson didn't play last year, they ran 2 big running plays just to get him going. I just think it's an issue. They've got great running backs, we think, but they had no push up front in the Game 1.
Yeah, I think when you look at the fact that the projected offensive line has not taken a snap together and might not at all in the preseason, probably won't in the preseason, because I'm not sure Zeitler will be back, that's a concern. I think the flip side, Dre, is so much emphasis has been on the quarterbacks in the passing game, and they feel like that between Duke and Hyde, guys have done it and they know. But yeah, I mean, when you look at a list of things, I mean, offensive line is about timing and chemistry, and this is not a huge line to start with. It's a well-paid line, but it's not going to be a mauling line. You have a couple of guys that are barely 300. You know, some lines are just built differently. So that is a concern. I think even in Sunday's practice, you saw an emphasis on the run game. I think in the next 2 preseason games, you'll see that. So too early to press the panic button. But if you looked and said, okay, the Browns clearly look like an NFL team. Let's put that in the left-hand column. What do we put in the right-hand column? The fact that you could go through the whole camp without your line getting any time together, and certainly no live snaps together, that would be a huge concern because you're going to have to run the ball all year long in certain situations, and you just want that timing to go. I mean, look, we saw the Steelers game 1 last year stink, right? The line and the running back didn't play together in camp. So, lines in general, they'll say these days that is the biggest victim of the reduction in practices, in contact practices, is offensive line play. They say the really good O-lines have to play their way into physicality and physical shape 3, 4, 6 weeks down the road.
And it's why football has changed in the first 2-3 weeks of the season. The running games for most teams, unless you have an offensive line that's played together, you just don't have that rhythm that you used to have because you're not. The physicality of the game is taken out of practices in the low amount of practices. So it's not just a Browns issue; it's an issue.
Sure.
But if it's an issue a month and a half from now, it becomes a problem because the makeup time is gone. Make sense of Antonio Callaway's 48 hours from, let's say it's from Tuesday till Thursday. Like, let's just break down Antonio Callaway's week last week. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but Jalen Ramsey down in Jacksonville goes at the media and they suspend him for a week, and I laugh because I think that's big deal. You're not going to play your best player for a week and he gets a week off. Good job. I know what you're doing, Coach Marone, but yeah, congrats. Callaway's situation a little bit different.
Yeah.
And what he did and what he was pulled over for with his history, and then I hear Hugh Jackson say they punished him by playing in 4 quarters. Make sense of this, bro.
Couple levels to this. One, the Jaguars suspended Ramsey and Fowler, and you're right. It becomes a joke of a suspension because they sit out some joint practices and in a preseason game and whatever. But I think what they're trying to do is set the tone and say, guys, we think we've arrived now. We played in the AFC Championship game. We're under the spotlight. Let's knock the shit off and be pros. Right? So it'll hit them in the pocketbook barely, but that's the approach there. And I'm not trying to dig at the Browns, but when I say this, 1,500 miles north, the approach is, hey, we know you did something really dumb and you compounded it by not telling us, but we need you, so we're just going to throw you back out there, and all you got to do is say sorry to the team because we're not sure whether you're sorry or not. I mean, to me, it goes back to 2 or 3 podcasts ago when we said we had the discussion about saying somebody did something stupid or said something idiotic and then actually calling him an idiot, calling him stupid.
Right.
Trouble has found Callaway for a long time. He apparently got himself in a minor bit of trouble that can be explained away, whether you believe it or not, and then he didn't tell the team. Because they need him. It's a guy that did not play football last year, guys, because of personal decisions that he's made. And they need him to be a starter. They decided to say, you get another strike. And I'm not saying that's wrong because he can really scoot. But they said that, and Hugh said that this is our punishment. And again, there's a million reasons you can roll your eyes at Hugh, and there's one way Hugh can stop us from rolling our eyes, and that's to win games. They think Antonio Callaway can win games. Right now on August 13th or 15th or whenever it is that you're listening to us, Antonio Callaway is going to need to play well for them to win games. It's the spot that they're in. Josh Gordon is not around. Another guy they're counting on who looks 10 times better as Rashard Higgins. He's still Rashard Higgins as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see. It's different approaches. It's different spots in where the franchise is. And Callaway cannot be trusted, but the Browns need him. So as we go forward, every day, every Monday night player's day off, Dre, every week where you get in the season and you get in the grind, it's easy to lose focus at the end of the week because you're mentally and physically exhausted. This is a guy you're going to worry about, but you drafted him, you need him, and we'll see.
We could do a whole podcast on that because
sure.
Because my whole thing is like you just said the number one thing in life is like, can I trust you? And if you say I can't trust someone, 90% of us will say you can't be a part of my life.
Right.
But then you just said, but they need him. To me, if you can't trust a guy, and right now Antonio Callaway can't be trusted. If you can't trust a guy, then how can you build around that? And it goes back to the Josh Gordon thing. I've said all along, I can't trust him. I never know when he's going to be here. God bless him. I hope he can take care of his life. But I can't make plays up for Josh Gordon because I don't know when the hell he's going to be there or when he's going to show up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he'll run the route. I don't know if he can run the route. I don't know if he can show up to my building. And Antonio Callaway is doing the same thing. I just think it brings a culture that will break you down. And you're so hungry and you're so thirsty to win that you're willing. And look, I'm the last guy that puts people down for taking risks with players. I think certain teams, certain places, you do have to take risks. I would just be careful the people I take risks with. And I just keep thinking the Browns keep going back to people. I don't know if the risk is worth it. I'd rather maybe have a guy that runs a 4.5 40 and runs the curl route and he can't break away from someone because I know, damn it, he's going to be there. Because in the game of football, especially in the wide receiver position, the quarterback has to be able to almost close his eyes, take the biggest hit of his life, and trust your ass is going to be where it's supposed to be.
That is exactly right. So that's why this is interesting. I understand some angst surrounding Dez Bryant, and I understand that Dez Bryant brings some baggage. But if you think the quarterback's going to play well, and I think he's going to play pretty well, if you think you're going to win some games, and the Browns, feel good about their vibes right now, and I can't blame them, I'm not so sure I wouldn't absolutely have to go get some more help from my quarterback.
You do have to get help. And the Dez Bryant thing, if Dez wants to come and he understands he's a number 2 behind Jarvis Landry and he can play with his mouth closed, I'll take Dez. But I can't take the Dez that's constantly running his mouth, asking for the ball, always, I can't take the demonstrative Dez Bryant right now. I can take the demonstrative Dez Bryant if we're a 10, 11-win team or 11-win team. But I don't know if I can deal with that until we've proven that we're there, especially with the next question I'm going to ask you. The Browns are doing the right thing in how they're going about the quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, what I saw, he did his job. It was fun to watch. He had poise in the pocket. He stepped in the pocket. The greatest thing he did was that he didn't, see one read and try to run, a la Johnny Football. He looked the part, and that was awesome to see him look the part. They're not rushing him. But I think the problem that you would run into, you bringing up Dez Bryant in the room and you got him yelling and screaming, is it takes away the effectiveness and the leadership of your quarterback. And right now is not a time for the Cleveland Browns to have anyone question the leadership of their quarterback.
Yeah, well, I would say this. I would say overall, why is the vibe good? Because the players are back that are pissed off. They're a lot older. They're better. The new players almost across the board represent a huge upgrade in talent and in leadership and in experience, right? But the big thing is your quarterback has established himself as a leader in every way possible. And you know that even if Tyrod Taylor is never physically good enough to be great, to be dominant, he has represented a 180-degree turn from what you had or what you were even trying to do, which was nothing at the position last year. So you think that you can win because you think on the day when it really clicks, as long as you don't turn the ball over, you can win. You saw we need to go no huddle and mix it up and throw to the guy that's the third read, can do that. This is a guy that can extend play. There's a lot to like about Tyrod Taylor, and therefore there's a lot to like about this offense. Now, you got to worry. There is no competition right now. We know what's going to happen with Baker. Who's going to be the running backs to get the carry? Is that going to be an issue? We don't know. Does Josh Gordon try to come back? Is he eligible to come back? Can you integrate him? Can he be healthy? Like you said, can he run the routes? Can he be engaged in football? Can you do that? Does Callaway score a touchdown one week and get in trouble the next day? Like all of these things are huge questions that you have to ask. And Dez Bryant's personality, the way he'll demand the ball, and the way he's been known to go off the handle are things you have to gauge. But it's a scoring league, passing league, touchdown league. So I'm taking the longest look I need to at Dez Bryant.
Yeah, I know. We haven't seen eye to eye on it completely, and I totally get why you would. Because, I know Madden came out, and I haven't played Madden in a long time. It would be a lot more fun to play Madden with the Cleveland Browns and have Dez Bryant on one side and Landry on the other side and Gordon and Callaway in a slot. You start looking like and I bring up on a video game. Because in the video game, you start looking like a legitimate offense that would be fun to play with because you don't have to deal with the personalities on the video game.
Well, you just said, like Njoku, for example. I mean, this guy is not a finished product, and he's got a lot to go. And, like, trust-wise from a football standpoint, he appears to be squeaky clean off the field, and he's clearly done the work to get better. Trust-wise from a football standpoint, you really think he's going to make the tough catch. I'm not sure you're there yet. But advantageous-wise, things are rolling-wise, you're getting this guy in single coverage. Is he going to score touchdowns? Yes. Like, I think David Njoku is going to be a really good fantasy football player this year, whether he's an actual good football player or not, right? And that says a lot about how far the Browns offense has come and what it might be, because if you can use this dude as a toy, you're onto something. Rashard Higgins is like 30 times better than he was. But if Rashard Higgins is your 3/4 receiver instead of your 2/3, your offense is better, right? It's a huge difference there.
A huge difference, and I look forward to this. Njoku, I thought last year he was a guy. Njoku, I can't even say his name right. I'll get it when I have to.
I'm glad you said that. Guys, it's Njoku. Njoku. It's not Njoku, okay? Just want to get that out there, and I'm not blasting you for it. I just wanted to say it's Njoku. Thank you. Now you know.
Look at him. I love when we get the snob to be the snob. We pulled it out of him one way or the other. It's the month of August. It's the month of claw, everybody. Zach Jackson.
Hey, life's good. Life's good when that's what you're pissed about on Monday morning, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, we talked last night in the text. Life's good, right? Sometimes you shrug it off. Sometimes you pat yourself on the back. Either way, you get to the next day. But on Monday morning, when you're pissed off because people on the radio are calling him Njoku, then everything's okay.
You know the greatest thing I've had? You're absolutely correct. The greatest thing I've had after the Browns win in the preseason game is I haven't really listened to Cleveland radio. And no offense to anybody that's doing it. This really isn't. This isn't a cheap shot. This is just coming out of my mouth as I'm thinking of it. It's hard to enjoy radio during August. Because and maybe this is every city. I don't think, and maybe it is. I'm really not attacking anybody in Cleveland. I just think that we love football so much in Northeast Ohio, and because we haven't seen it in a while, we just go the scale is so wide. Like we get so excited in August about and rightfully so. We love football, but like sometimes it's like pump the brakes. There's 90 guys on a football team. Most of the guys you watched in that preseason game last week. And I always say we'll be stemming pools. It's graded on a curve. It's football, but it's not the football you're going to watch in September, is all I'm trying to get at. So yes. Sometimes I can't take the hype beast that is the business for whatever reason. I always laugh because I said to somebody last week after the Browns game ended, I was like, why does no one ever make a big deal about, a guy hitting 2 home runs in a spring training game? It's like you forget about it, you move on. It's great that they played the way they did. I just can't take the overhype and the running to 480 bridge of, Super Bowl champs. I get it. This is a thirsty town. This town wants the Browns to succeed so damn bad. And that's awesome. And the fans deserve that. I need to be able to chill.
Well, I'm glad you said that because let me get this out. I got about 5 minutes, so let me say this, and then if you got a closing thought, you can do that. You're right. And 2 things. One, when we go on these trips, guys, I almost always try to fly out at 5:30 or 6 the next morning just because you feel like you're going to lose the day or you're part of it anyway, and I just would rather not sleep on the plane, whatever, and just get home. Well, the way it worked out in Newark, the only direct flight back to Canton, Akron was until the afternoon, so instead of getting up at 5:30 in the morning like normal, I spent the morning in the hotel. I went to the airport at like 11:30, so I got to listen to the radio show, both stations back in Cleveland, as I kind of did my follow-up work and packed my stuff up. And I had told Ken and Raj this both individually off the air, and then last week when I did their show for 20 minutes or so, I said, "What a gift from the radio gods and the football gods for you guys to have 3 of the preseason games on Thursday because it'll be overreaction one way or the other."
Yeah,
and I just want to say this. Although I do believe Baker Mayfield has been a little bit better than I thought he was, the most important thing is, guys, he is noticeably better than he was in May and June. His arrow is pointing up. So you've seen great accuracy. You've seen him handle himself like an absolute pro. Seen a bunch of good throws, a couple bad ones. The touchdown in the game to Njoku was an incredible throw. He had some back. They converted a 3rd and 18. All of that is progress. He said he's just grasping everything better from meetings to the huddle to looking at the defense and knowing what he's not going to take. His arrow is pointing up. They've done the right thing. He's not under pressure to have to get ready to play the Steelers in 3 weeks. And so quit trying to fucking force him in or press turbo. His time will come. It will be awkward. It might be sooner than later. But right now, it doesn't matter what I say or what he does against a non-competitive Pat Shurmur coach New York Giants backups. The fact is Baker Mayfield is a ton better in mid-August than he was in mid-June. And if he keeps getting better, then you might have something on your hands going forward. That's my thought.
Great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. No, because it's the best way to put it. And going forward, Hard Knocks should be fun tomorrow evening. We'll try to hook up sometime Wednesday to have our recap. When do you take off?
What is it, 3 games in Cincinnati, Dre, or just 2?
3. I wish it was 2.
Is it 3 night
Monday,
games?
Tuesday,
Wednesday afternoon.
Off Thursday, too.
Okay, I'm off Thursday too, but I might be going to J and Bay at Ohio Stadium.
The J and Bay. Get the fuck out of here.
I might be. I'm serious.
If you go, awesome. If you don't, we'll talk. I was gonna say off the air.
Yeah.
If you don't go, maybe we set up to have an interview with somebody. We do a claw in the backyard, but we'll figure something out.
Okay, if you twist my arm, maybe I won't go to the concert then. That's fine.
No, you take J and Bay over here. I'm sitting on my back porch.
I might have a big pin dodgeball game in the pool up the road, so I'll have to get back to you.
Make sure you got some empties. They ain't doing no water bottles, motherfucker.
All right, so three at the Reds, an off day, 3 with the Orioles, and then the Red Sox, correct?
Yeah, and then we go to Boston. You got it.
Hey, and one last thing, guys. We talk about Facebook.com/A to Z podcast. Give us a like. We post some articles on there, announcements, things like that. Last week I mentioned that BW3's Buffalo Wild Wings wants to get in the sportsbook business. One of the best writers in America, Jason Gay from the Wall Street Journal, did an actual story on that, and I posted the link on Facebook.com/A to Z podcast this morning. So check us out there, A to Z podcast.com. Support our sponsors, Cleveland Scene, the Honeymoon Grill, and American Fireworks, who sponsors our Glory Days segment. Thanks for listening to Glory Days and all of our wonderful stories. What do you got, Dre?
Great time of the year. Make sure you know your kids for the last week before they go to school. It's weird. My kids we're getting school clothes for Bella, and she's getting ready to start kindergarten. Very odd, to say the least. And shout out to Nick Camino. I give him a lot of hell. He deserves it. The old doctor is a dad now, and that officially makes me feel old as can be.
Delivered his own baby. Congrats to you, Dr. Camino.
Dr. Camino. He delivered his own baby.
All right, on that note, we're out. We'll see you next time on A to Z.
Konnichiwa, Camino.